100.1 FM and AM 1020 KDKA. It's Today in Pittsburgh Labor with J-Doc and Krause. Talk, listen, and speak to the region's most influential leaders. This is Today in Pittsburgh Labor with J-Doc and Krause.
And welcome in, everyone, to another edition of Today in Pittsburgh Labor with J-Doc and Krause as we broadcast to you on KDKA 100.1 FM and 1020 AM. Great to be here another week, and we welcome everybody in to the show. The support that we have been receiving since coming on the air has been tremendous, and we thank everybody for being part of Today in Pittsburgh Labor. J-Doc, we've got a great guest joining us today, State Representative Dan Miller, who represents part of Allegheny County and is a member of the Democrats' leadership team in Harrisburg, and he's been there for a while, joins us now on Today in Pittsburgh Labor. Dan, welcome into the show. We appreciate you joining.
Yes, hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no doubt about it, and I want to talk to you about and we have been talking at length about the post-Gazette strike. I want to start there. It is now the strike officially started in October, but the last contract ended. They just surpassed their 6-year anniversary, and they just can't seem to get to a point where the company is willing to engage. What do you make of it, Dan?
Well, I make it that the ownership team is really committed to destroying their reputation and kind of ruining what has been a historic newspaper with a strong commitment to excellence here in Allegheny County and Western PA. So it is, I hope that we hear something different in the near future, but it is very difficult to believe that what we have seen over the last months and years is not going to continue from this team. They're still not changing. They still seem willing to go against their workers, even when they are ordered to bargain in good faith. They decide, no, thank you, we're not looking to do that. It's a problem.
Yeah, I just want to say that, as you know, first of all, we appreciate your time, State Representative, and as an organization, the only thing you can hope for is to bargain in good faith, and some of the reasons, I think they're bringing in a second mediator. The mediator that is involved, wants another perspective. The company is using that to cancel the mediation. Yeah. I mean, I almost never heard anything like that.
Good faith is supposed to mean something. Right. So good faith is supposed to mean something. I remember talking recently with the Allegheny County Labor Council President Darren Kelly, and we were talking about how much in our system we're dependent upon this good faith, this idea of good faith, where we're supposed to come to that table. Clearly, the union as representatives have been doing that, have been trying to do that, and yet, again, even with a court decision telling them to go bargain in good faith, they find creative ways. And this is the challenge, really much that has been part of the issue over the last 40-plus years so of labor law in this country, which is that we are seeing high-priced law firms coming in and finding ways to creatively destroy collective bargaining. And that's what this is just another example of.
Dan, is there any relief? Is there anything that could be done that wouldn't allow the law firm representing the paper the ability to appeal a court order?
Well, look, obviously, I appreciate what due process is. The challenge, of course, is really what type of pressure kind of comes in when we see businesses make these type of decisions that are so overall destructive to what we hope to see, not just for our local and our region business and the workers out here, but as a state, what the climate is that we're supposed to be establishing. So there are bills that are out there that tend to deal more where we have a little bit more authority, which is in the public sector. The private sector is still very much the purview of federal law. So that does limit where what we could perhaps consider in Harrisburg. The public sector gives us much more flexibility. There are bills out there that are designed to help workers exercise their voice, help workers get to their first contract, help workers have a good chance to bargain in good faith. On the private side, this is why things like the PRO Act and some of the other bills that are out there need to occur to rebalance a system and a scale that for the last 40 years has been largely destroyed thanks to corporate anti-union lawyers.
We're in a conversation with State Representative Dan Miller joining us here on Today in Pittsburgh Labor. Before we go today and finish the interview, Dan, I do want to ask you about some of those bills that you have that you are reintroducing for the 23-24 session. As we talk with Dan about the Post-Gazette strike in Pittsburgh, it continues, J-Doc, to labor on with no potential resolution in sight, at least as we speak right now.
Well, to me, it looks like an effort to break the union. They're clearly not serious about bargaining. On January 26th, I think Judge Jeffrey Carter ruled that the Gazette broke the laws that unilaterally imposing working conditions that were inconsistent with the collective bargaining agreement. I mean, these people are doing everything they can by, just brutalizing these people, and it's just completely unfair. Ultimately, Dan, talk about that.
Well, and keep in mind what we're talking about. They took away health care, right? They took away these workers' health care, right? And this is what is so insulting. This is what chills labor rights and union voices and worker voices. When they go, well, look, I don't mind trying to exercise my rights federally as to what I can do. However, I can't jeopardize my family's health care in the process. This is the great imbalance that we're talking about in the system. And clearly, this type of move here, think of the damage it does to families. When you say you had the audacity to exercise your rights, saying that you wish to earn a little bit more money or whatever the conditions could be. However, when you go to do so, we will strip your family, no matter what the situation is, no matter what your family's needs are, we will strip them of their health care if you decide to squawk.
Yeah, coming up a little bit later on in our next segment, we'll talk with a gentleman, Brad Everett, who is a sports writer and has a 25-year tenure with working for the Post-Gazette. Dan, I'll get one last thought from you, on just the historic history of what these people have done in building the Post-Gazette to be what it is, or at least what it was. 25 years actually might be light for Brett. Some of these workers have been there 40 years, second, third generation family members.
Look, it's one of the institutions to which our public discourse and very much our community has been reflected in, learns about, talks about, shares, is the Post-Gazette, has been the Post-Gazette. And I'm very concerned for what it means and this reshaping of it in an image here that seems so contrary to how Pittsburgh, Allegheny County, and Western PA was built. We were built by working people. We were built by the middle class. We were built by unions. And it is incredibly disheartening when we have such a corporation that comes in with such an attitude to toss it aside. And that's what we're seeing. And they are contrary to what Western Pennsylvania is all about.
Dan, take our last 60 seconds that we have with you, and as J-Doc mentioned, we appreciate your coming on today in Pittsburgh Labor. Use the last 60 seconds that we have to talk about some of the bills that you are reintroducing for 23-24 session and the importance of them.
Look, I appreciate it. I do have bills that are going to be coming out that will be looking to see that when you take public dollars that there are expectations in doing so. And protecting your workers' rights and decisions are part of that. And if you're found to violate it, well, then you don't get the public sector dollars. So we do have a couple things there. We also have some ways to try and make organizing easier, try and make the first contract easier. We also look to be sure that health care benefits in the public sector cannot be stripped because you had the audacity, again, to exercise your rights. Now, those are a variety of things that we're working on, including like unemployment eligibility for striker workers. On the larger scale, and teaming up with our brothers and sisters at the AFL, the state AFL-CIO, we are also interested in public sector OSHA. We're also interested in paid leave. We're also interested in misclassification. This is just the start of things that we are looking to advance in the House. And we're going to be sure that people recognize that Pennsylvania is a union state and was built by unions and is going to remain that way.
State Representative Dan Miller joining us here on Today in Pittsburgh Labor with J. Doc and Krause. And I will close by saying a leader on labor issues for a long, long time. I appreciate it very much, sir. Thank you very much for joining.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, good stuff from State Representative Dan Miller. We'll take a short break on Today in Pittsburgh Labor with J. Doc and Krause. Back in a moment.
We are going on strike because of unfair labor practices, where the company literally canceled the health care.
Being a mom on strike and being a single mom on strike to 2 young kids, it's very nerve-wracking, a little bit stressful. I'm doing my best to look at it as everything will work out, and I gotta just trust the situation, but it's very nerve-wracking.
I'm a mailer in the mailroom, been an employee here for 28 years. I'm a third-generation employee. Between my grandpa, my dad, and me, we have close to, if not more than 100 years of loyal employment with this company. You can call the Post-Gazette and tell them you do not want to have a paper delivered. You do not want a paper delivered until this labor dispute is finalized and settled.
And welcome back, everyone, to Today in Pittsburgh Labor with J. Doc and Krause, broadcasting to you here on KDKA 100.1 FM and 1020 AM. Thanks so much for tuning in and being a part of the broadcast today. I've got a great special guest that I talked about in the opening segment. Now joining us, Brad Everett is here to join us on Today in Pittsburgh Labor. Brad, welcome in. Thank you so much.
Hey, Joe. Thanks for having me, buddy. I appreciate it.
No, thank you, man. Brad, tell the listening audience about your tenure. And I know we're crunched on time in terms of you can spend hours talking about 25 years of work with the Post-Gazette, but give the audience a little bit of a quick understanding of how you started, where you are, and what brings you to this point.
Yeah, so I started at the Post-Gazette. I was a freshman in college at Point Park, and I just took a job just to kind of get my foot in the door, answering phones at night on Friday nights, taking high school football scores. And then, that kind of eventually led to me starting to do some writing. And I had taken some other jobs in my life. So the writing part wasn't kind of my full-time job for a long time. And then as it turns out, things kind of fell into place in about 2017. And then I eventually got hired full-time as a staff writer for the Post-Gazette. And I'd been a staff writer for about 5 years before we went on strike in October. And I mainly cover high school sports. That's my main beat. I've covered a lot of other things in my career, but I really enjoy covering high school sports and just telling the stories about our young athletes and coaches around here. So, that's kind of my story. Yeah, no, good stuff. And, 25-year tenure, Brad, even though it began as a freshman in college. Listen, we've all had a start, including me, including everybody listening to the broadcast tonight. A 25-year tenure certainly gives you a platform to be able to give a thought or give an opinion. What's it been like? What's it been like working for the Post before you became a full-time writer? Talk about that a little bit. It was great. Most of my things that I was doing, I did everything from write But, like I did a lot of that, but I did a lot of our agate, chores too. So I would help handle the schedules and compiling, scores and getting everything together for pretty much all of our, all of the sports we cover, from football to basketball, baseball, softball, our big sports. And it's a big operation as far as obtaining schedules and keeping up-to-date scores and putting box scores in the paper. So I was kind of one of the guys that was kind of in charge of that for a number of years. And then the writing part of it's been great. I really, have enjoyed my years at the Post-Gazette. It's a place I've had a lot of pride writing for them. It's a great platform to have. I've met so many great people, other great reporters or just athletes or, coaches or parents. And, it's just been it's been a pretty cool ride. Anyone that's, been involved in media in this line of work, you get to meet some cool people and you get to tell some neat stories. So, it's definitely been a neat thing.
Well, the one thing that I've learned, Brad, as I've started to talk about the strike, the Post-Gazette strike against block communications, the one thing that I've learned in terms of just conversations with you and conversations with a lot of people, boy, it's a community of great people that make up the workforce. And I think you second that statement in what you just said. A lot of incredible people with great tenure have been and are still with the Post.
That's correct. A lot of people that have been there for a lot longer than me. But, it's interesting from the strike point of view because we have people on the picket line that have been there since, this isn't their first strike. They were there for 92 and, they've been around, for like 40 some years in the industry. But then there's people that we have on strike that had only been working at the paper for, like a few weeks or a few months. And, they made the decision to go on strike and to not continue to work. So, but yeah, there's a lot of talented journalists that work there that have been there for so long. And many of them, are alongside the picket line along me right now. And where there's a lot of others that have continued to work. So, it's just, it's an odd situation all the way around, I think.
Talk about the ability to continue to write, talk about the Pittsburgh Union Progress and talk about just your ability to keep doing what you do while you remain on strike, while you remain in solidarity with your colleagues.
Yeah, that's writing for the Pittsburgh Union Progress, that's probably the one reason that I've been able to keep my sanity, I think, a little bit, because, it kind of makes it feel a little bit normal. So much that we're dealing with this strike is just things that I've never had to deal with in my life before, like some challenges that have been really interesting to kind of have to tackle and deal with. But the writing part of it, to be able to continue to do that has been awesome. And, I'm pretty much on the same beat that I've been doing in the past and, still telling all the stories I was telling before. So being able to have that platform has been awesome. And the Pittsburgh Union Progress, it started from nothing, in November, and we're at the point now where, our subscribers just keep skyrocketing and our followers on Twitter and, the names getting out there. And, it's just great that we're being recognized because we really should be, because the staff we have is just ultra talented. So many good writers, editors, designers, and we have the best photographers in town because pretty much the whole photography staff from the Post-Gazette is on strike right now. So we're very fortunate. We have a very talented staff right now, and that's been awesome to work alongside so many great people.
We're talking with Brad Everett, who's joining us here on Today in Pittsburgh Labor. Brad, just for clarity for the listening audience, the massive listening audience here on KDKA who may not know, or just so they can put the blocks together, the Pittsburgh Union Progress was created and born from the strike, which started in October. Is that accurate?
That is correct. It was something that we had talked about for a long time. I know there was talk because back in 2020, there was talks that we could be going on strike then, and it didn't happen. And so when we went on strike in October, I remember asking somebody right off the bat, are we going to have a strike publication? Because that would be really awesome. And, like the mines got together and they decided to, this would be a good idea. And so, they went forward with it. And we've been going strong now for about 4 or 5 months. I think I just wrote my 125th article for the Pittsburgh Union Progress yesterday. So, we're doing great work over there.
Brad Everett is joining us here. This is Today in Pittsburgh Labor on KDKA.
Pittsburgh is a union town, so when the owners of the Post-Gazette hire out-of-town lawyers to try to break our unions, we don't back down. Workers at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette are on strike, and we need your support. We're the ones who design, print, and distribute the paper, sell ads, handle accounts, and create Pulitzer Prize-winning journalism. We help our neighbors stay informed day in and day out, but we haven't had a raise in over 15 years, and the owners of the paper block communications, illegally cut our health care. We deserve better. We deserve respect. Please keep our strike strong and show the Millionaire Block family we're not alone. If you subscribe to the paper, cancel your subscription. If you read stories online, don't visit the site until the strike is resolved. Support our strike. Drop the Post-Gazette. Visit ppgstrike.org.
Paid for by the Communications Workers of America.
Welcome back, everyone, to Today in Pittsburgh Labor. I want to go back and ask you to share, if you don't mind, what some of the conversations you've had with some of your colleagues about the strike. As you said, there are employees and colleagues next to you on the picket line that have 40 years of service and commitment, which is, in today's terms, that may not seem to be, or in today's world, that may not be the norm. I don't know. But 40 years plus is an incredible commitment that a lot of colleagues have made to the Gazette.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely correct. And, when you're with a company for 40 years, you would think that they would be treating you fairly, but that's not the case in this situation. But I give so much credit, to those people that have been in this field for this long. And, you're exactly right. Like, you don't get that anymore, especially in this journalism field where, people are kind of coming and going at all times. A lot of people, don't last at a certain job for more than a couple years because they're leaving for somewhere else. Just to see that commitment, there's like a woman that's striking with us that I've known since I was a kid that was, like a professor of mine at Point Park and, just a huge favorite of mine. And she's doing this, she doesn't have to, she was just working a day a week at the Post-Gazette. But she wanted to be alongside all of us and, she felt that this was the right thing to do. And, it's just awesome to have not only people you respect, but good people. And there's so many good people that are alongside of me, in this fight right now. And, and just to feel that solidarity on the picket line and, just speaking with people, it just means the world because sometimes being involved in a strike, it could feel a little bit lonely sometimes, but we have a ton of support, not just from our fellow strikers, but, from you guys and from other organizations all the way around and, the support we're getting from other unions, and it's just amazing.
Brad, do you feel that same support from just the general public?
It's mixed. I think a lot of people don't even realize the Post-Gazette's on strike. That's one thing I've had talks with people about because mainly it's because of the sports department. I'm one of only 2 sports writers or columnists that's on strike right now. Just me and my colleague, Steve Rothstein. He covers high school sports as well, but all the other sports writers and columnists are still working. So people are still getting their news from their favorite columnists or from their favorite writers. So they probably don't even realize for the most part that we're on strike, so that's a little bit of a frustrating part of it. Cause too, you think about it, if we had that complete solidarity from everybody and everybody, kind of stood tall and didn't continue to work, then, I have a pretty strong feeling that this would have ended probably a long time ago. But here we are 4 or 5 months into it, and we're still going.
And how's the stamina? How's the resolve? I can hear a determined and a defined presence in your voice. What's it like, or, from the troops, from your colleagues?
It's inspired. Those guys inspire me. I don't consider myself by any means the strongest person in the world. And there are some people involved in this that are just so strong and I don't know how some of these people sleep, because like the people that, we have, like, our guild leadership, our union leadership, and really everybody, all the way down, like the hours that people are putting into, whether it be, the Pittsburgh Union Progress or, everything with the negotiating sessions and trying to raise money for our strike fund. And there's just so many people involved in this, and everybody's just so positive and just trying to work together as a team, because that's really what we are right now. And, we're just all trying to just really do whatever we can to get through this right now.
Brad Everett joining us here on Today in Pittsburgh Labor with J-Doc and Krause as we broadcast to you on KDKA. Brad, before I let you go, and I appreciate your time in joining us here today on Today in Pittsburgh Labor, talk one more time, if you will, about the Pittsburgh Union Progress. Where can people get it if they don't know about it? When they get there, what will they find?
Sure. So we can be found at unionprogress.com. And we have lots of news stories coming up on the site each and every day. And people can find it's really geared towards local news. And I think that's what most people want. So a lot of great local news stories. Just looking at the site now, and there's a story up today about Pittsburgh Regional Transits and their reliability to kind of see improvement. And there's stories on the Greater Pittsburgh Festival of Books, and I have a story up a track notebook today, and we just released our high school all-star teams the other day. So lots of coverage on there, and lots of strike coverage too. Including the company didn't show up for a bargaining session. So a lot of good things on there. We have a lot of sponsors, and the site's growing each and every day. And you can find on that site also, if you want to donate or advertise, subscribe as well. So a lot of options on that site. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the website again, unionprogress.com.
Yeah, really good stuff from Brad Everett joining us here on Today in Pittsburgh Labor. I guess the last thing to do before I let you go, Brad, is to give you last word. KDKA is a big radio station. It is the heart of the city of Pittsburgh and the surrounding area. And I think there may be a lot of people out there, and I think you mentioned this, there may be a lot of people out there that aren't aware of the strike, that aren't aware that the Post-Gazette management didn't bother to show up for an arbitration hearing that was court mandated. They're not aware of that stuff, and I'd love to give you the platform just to make an appeal out to the public.
Yeah, you can find a lot of this information, if you have questions about the strike or what's going on, you can find a lot of information on our website on unionprogress.com. But definitely, you're not going to be able to find a lot of this stuff. It's not like the Post-Gazette is really, broadcasting some of this coverage or anything like that. And, you can find it on the Pittsburgh Union Progress site. Please support us if you can. We have a lot of talented people on our side over there. And, we definitely don't want anyone supporting the Post-Gazette right now, or anything like that. So, we just all want to get back to our jobs here, and, we hope it, comes sooner or later here, because, we have a lot of talented people here, and we just enjoy doing our jobs, and we're just lucky to still be able to continue to do them now, which is pretty neat.
Brad Everett, 25 years at the Post-Gazette, joining us here on Today in Pittsburgh Labor with J-Doc and Krause. Back in a moment.
Hey, is that?
Yep, the Post-Gazette workers' picket line. They're on strike.
Oh, yep, I know. I already canceled my subscription to support the workers, and I am not reading the Post-Gazette website either.
Right, me too, and I canceled my business's advertising.
I'd go on strike, too. If my company cut my health care...
Right, and no raises for 15 years? Crazy.
Yeah, seriously.
Those guys who own the paper are worth millions.
I heard that they hired some out-of-town law firm to negotiate with the workers.
Yeah, I heard they're trying to break the unions.
Doesn't sound like they understand Pittsburgh at all.
Exactly. Pittsburgh is a union town.
Yeah, this place was built on unions.
Yeah, it's about showing respect and doing what's right.
Please keep our strike strong and show the Millionaire Block family we're not alone. Drop the Post-Gazette. Visit ppgstrike.org to join us.
Paid for by the Communications Workers of America.
And back here on Today in Pittsburgh Labor with J-Doc and Krause. Amazing to listen to Brad Everett, 25-year tenure at the paper. Started when he was 19 years old. He continues, as he mentioned, to direct people to Pittsburgh Union Progress, and that is where you'll find a lot of great stories that the writers who are not currently working for the Post-Gazette are publishing. Again, Pittsburgh Union Progress. And J-Doc, listen, you're a union guy. You come from an incredible family with a deep history in the union movement. When you hear State Representative Dan Miller stand in strong support of the Post-Gazette workers, when you hear Brad Everett stand in solidarity next to a colleague who's been with the paper for 45 years, how do you react to that?
Well, I'll tell you. I'll tell you how I react. First of all, it is incredible to hear, the new bills that State Representative Dan Miller, has on the table. And the fact of the matter is that it just demonstrates that we still need unions more now than ever. This situation, okay, is so much about corporate greed, okay, and selfishness. And, you talk about individuals that have been with the paper for so long, who have dedicated their blood, sweat, and tears, and by the way, their talent. Okay, let's not forget, this is you're trying to also maintain a standard. Okay, to me, it's clear union breaking. Okay, taking health care away. Let's also look at this. If they can afford, to have a strike and not show up for bargaining. Okay,
that's the thing that's the thing, J-Doc. That's the thing that confuses me the most. It's ordered. It's a court order. There is due process, as Dan pointed out in our first segment. But the ability to just totally disregard that order to meet with a mediator or meet with a second mediator and just blow it off completely is just mind-boggling to me. And I've got to tell you, if I'm the owner of the Post-Gazette, and it was my father that was the owner before I became the owner, there's a part of me that no matter what was happening, there's a part of me that would always respect and cherish the backs of the entire community that built the Post-Gazette into what it was. Yeah. Well, it is mind-boggling, Joe, no question about it. By the way, these workers are not being greedy. They want to maintain their health care benefits. We're talking about reasonable raises, okay? And the fact of the matter is this is a big city. This is Pittsburgh. It's one of our great cities in the United States. And the fact of the matter is that could you imagine not only lowballing your employees, forcing them out? You can afford to starve them out, okay, since October, okay? And here we are, and you can afford not to show up for meetings, okay? And at the end of the day, literally speaking, basically what you're saying is either come back to work or we'll get somebody else. What respect does that have not only for the workers, but for the people of Pittsburgh who deserve a quality newspaper? I mean, and the fact that it just, to me, it speaks union breaking.
No question about it.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Today in Pittsburgh Labor with J-Doc and Krause, broadcasting to you, of course, on KDKA 100.1 FM, 1020 AM. We're going to continue on with Today in Pittsburgh Labor. J-Doc, I'll get one last thought from you before we have to wrap things up. We have about 2 minutes left before we have to say goodbye. If you were one, or if you put yourself, use theater of the mind for me, and put yourself on the picket line with your colleagues, your fellow members of the Post-Gazette, how do the members stay strong?
Well, I'll tell you, we've had, obviously the members on the program, and they are incredibly committed. Okay, what I would be proud. Okay, by the way, they're not only negotiating for themselves, but for future generations. And, the fact of the matter is that I would want the word to get out to the people. I want the voice of the people to be heard. I want the citizens of Pittsburgh and the surrounding counties. I want their voices to be heard, that they're not going to tolerate this and that they deserve a quality paper. Okay, and at the end of the day, you talk about breaking the union and disrespecting the workers, taking their livelihoods away from them. Okay, when I can afford to shut my workers down for months and months and months. Also, I'm spitting in the face of the citizens of Pittsburgh, and I want if I'm working on that, if I'm on that picket line, I'm committed to my brother and sister workers, and I want the citizens of Pittsburgh to know that we want to hear their voice as well.
I'm going to end the show today, J-Doc, just reading verbatim from a press release that was put out by the Newspaper Guild of Pittsburgh, dated March 28th, 2023. Lawyers for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette are backing out of Wednesday morning's previously scheduled bargaining session with the production, editorial, and distribution unions that write, sell ads in, print, photograph for, edit, and deliver the paper. The meeting, by the way, the meeting date was mutually agreed 2 weeks ago. Post-Gazette lawyers are objecting to the presence of a second mediator from the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service known as the FMCS. So that is what we continue, or the workers rather, continue to do and continue to deal with. That's going to do it for this edition of Today in Pittsburgh Labor with J-Doc and Krause. Special thanks to all of our guests today, Dan Miller and, of course, Brad Everett, joining us. 25 years tenure, a 25-year tenure as a Post-Gazette employee. Until next time, see you next time, everybody.